Hey Rockstars, I'm JB, expert salesperson and master presenter.
I'm the doctor, psychologist, and behavioral expert.
This is the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab podcast.
We're high-performance coaches that help service-based professionals and entrepreneurs take their skills to the next level.
70% of entrepreneurs fail, which is why every week we have real talk with real entrepreneurs to help ensure you are not one of them.
We're also the inventors of the Be Rich mindset,
where we rise to mastery,
inspire greatness,
celebrate knowledge,
and help others along the way.
So join us in the lab.
And now, on to the show.
What is up, Rockstars? Welcome back to the lab. I'm JB.
I'm the doctor.
If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab, where the doc and I have great conversations with professionals, even if it's just the two of us, which today it will be. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for joining us again, or viewer, I should say. And if you haven't already, please make sure you like, you subscribe, you follow, you go ahead. We do this so we can impact more and more people just like yourself, to give you some of the insight and wisdom to help you level up your business and yourself. So get on it, folks.
Level up. Push some bells. Click some buttons.
Speaking of getting better, Doc, what do you do to get better?
That's like a very loaded question.
It is. You take that a lot of ways, man. But you better be careful because it's on YouTube.
I'm already better? No,
that doesn't play right.
Okay. And this is where we can't even segue to like, hey, here comes a guest to save us from our bad joke.
Our dad jokes falling flat, even with other dads. We've got a problem.
And now introducing our guest.
The sirens.
Just us.
Yep. No, seriously.
I think what we're going with this, JB, and we can introduce our guest. Today's topic, we're going to talk about self-help, and self-health and wellness.
What are we talking about?
All those things I just said.
I thought they were the same thing. You just couldn't say it.
Maybe.
Oh, all right.
Maybe they're different depending on your point of view.
Self-health. That's a tongue twister, by the way. That's not. How about self-care? Can we just go with self-care? Is that cool?
That was probably the word I really wanted to say, but I like the other ones.
Well, you said the other ones. Whether or not you like them, I don't know. Self-care is what we're going with. All right, so self-care.
So self-care, including health, and wellness.
Okay, well, that sounds wonderful. I mean,
all right,
we just said that was perfect. That's the title.
We can't go right into
FYI.
this stuff. We got to give people a chance to loosen up and realize that we can fumble our words and still have some fun, and then we can get into our self-care. That's part of self-care, by the way.
Well, I love that you don't need to come up with the title anymore. You already did it. You're doing work ahead of time without even realizing it. That's some pretty solid stuff right there.
There we go. We have a jumbled title. So self-care, I think, was an important topic for us to reach out. And you're like, oh, wait, you guys talk a lot about business. What does this have to do with that? Everything. That was
and nothing, or everything, and everything.
Like most things, more than one thing's true.
Yeah. Self-care is important when it comes to business, though, because most of us out there, while we may be able to step away from our businesses, depending on how our businesses are built out, a lot of us are the driving force of a business. You talk to anybody who's in a leadership position in an association, an organization, or a business, and you'll hear common phrases, right? And commonly said things like, if I don't do it, it won't get done. Or when I don't do something myself, it doesn't even happen, or it gets half-assed, or whatever it happens to be. You hear things like this all the time for people in leadership. And so the question becomes, what happens if and when, because it's not an if we don't take care of ourselves, but what happens when we start to burn out, or we start to get sick, or we run into problems where we just, we get tired out. It becomes a problem. And that's where self-care matters.
I think that's why it's such an important conversation for us to have with you guys today, because if you aren't taking care of yourself, you can't take care of your business. But beyond that, self-care goes so many different ways: family, friends, business, health. but we think of it when we think of self-care, we only think of it as certain things. We like to think of, what are some of the things you think of, JB, when I say self-care, when we hear those words?
Well, I mean, for me, it's funny you mentioned family, and it doesn't even occur to me when I think self-care about family. But when I think self-care, I'm thinking, okay, meditation, exercise, sleep is a big one for me. Alone time is a really big one for me. Just time by myself. Uh, those are probably the top four. Is that four? Did I count that right? I think that's four. Those are the big ones for me personally, but that's for other people. They might not even say any of those four things.
Right. And I think that's the idea, is care can be in so many different ways. My initial question is, what do you think people would think of when they hear self-care? And I think it is going to be for that individual what they look at when they think of it. Some people think it's like going to the doctor, getting blood work done. Some might say, oh, going and getting a massage is self-care. And yes, these are all true. And I think that's the importance of this. Is self-care is very wide on ways that it can happen. And it's important to realize that it is important.
I got you.
You did. You gotta. This is why it's important to watch on YouTube, also because we have fun with banners. So what made me think about this a little bit was my dog. Funny enough. So I'll tell you a little story. My dog is old and decrepit and lovely, but he's a stupid old man. But he has issues walking, right? So he gets to go to his self-care every few weeks and gets acupuncture. He gets massaged. He gets physical therapy. And I'm the fool that takes him all the time to do that and pays for it. So he gets to sit there and get taken care of really nicely. And I'm watching all this. And I'm sitting in the car. It's drop off. Drop him off at the care. They take him in. They do all the beautiful work. Then they send him out to me. And then they'll also send me some videos and pictures sometimes while he's doing this work. And I got a picture of him laying there, getting massaged on one end and being fed turkey on the other end. And I'm like, this guy's got the life. Because keep a dog calm, you give him turkey while they're massaging him. I'm like, this is the best thing ever for him. And I'm like, I'm sitting here in pain and I'm paying for my dog to get massaged in turkey.
I was gonna say, dude, this dog has better self-care than I do.
That was exactly what I was thinking. So it led me to say, why, if I'm doing this for him, which is great, because great dog, deserves it, why am I not doing this for myself? So that spurred me to do the same, because I'm like, I have physical pain sometimes. I need some self-care. I went and got myself a physical therapist to help improve my life so I can get through the day better off. But it took me taking my dog to see that, oh, that's probably something I should do for myself too, because I wouldn't even think about that normally.
So, it's an empathy thing, right? We talk about empathy when it comes to other people, and that's largely when you hear empathy, that's what you're going to hear about, how you're responding to other people. I suppose there's an argument to be made that we need to be a little bit more empathetic to ourselves from time to time, because I think there's a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs and professionals, that are out there that aren't necessarily taking a lot of time to care for themselves the way they ought to. And for most of us, I think there's probably a space or two in our lives we could identify if we broke down all the different areas of our life and said, hey, where's my energy and focus going from a care perspective, where there's some parts where we're putting a little less energy and effort into. So, I mean, is that the case, man? Should there be a little bit more empathy for ourselves? Should we be a little bit more aware of this stuff?
I think the second part you said there is the key part, awareness, right? Aware of ourselves, and to know that we should have any empathy of how we're feeling. The awareness goes back to it is, we don't, like I was even just saying in that story, I don't even realize what I was going through day to day until I saw the care that could be given to others. In this case, my dog. Obviously, I've taken my mom to physical therapy and stuff when she's got injured. But I never put that self back to didn't have the awareness to go back to myself. Oh, that's something I should probably do too. Right. And I think that as business owners, we get caught up so much in our day to day that we don't have that awareness of how to take care of ourselves, and that we should, and why it's so important.
It is. And it's something that sometimes I need reminded of, certainly, I need somebody to turn around and say, hey, you need to do this. Now, we've had this conversation before where I've said, I think there's some telltale signs for each of us individually that we can probably key in on. And each of us have our own signs, but we can kind of start to tell when we're getting burnt out and so on and so forth. The trick should be to not let yourself get to that stage, though, right? If you're already seeing those signs, I think you're missing the boat on the self-care part of it, because the self-care, if we think of ourselves like a machine, right, which is very grossly oversimplifying what we are. But if we're a machine and the telltale sign is we're starting to break down, that means we haven't done the preventative maintenance that we probably should have done in the first place, which is what self-care really ought to be. So self-care, like, we don't have a change oil light that's going to come on in the car a lot of times. What we do end up with is a stalled car, or a car that won't start or something when it comes to ourselves. So that's why self-care is so important, and why it's such an important conversation for us to have in a venue like this, in a format like this.
In addition, that's what also gives you the energy. We talk about motivation a lot in business, and we were talking in one of our previous podcasts about like how to stay motivated, and should you love what you're doing? Is that one of the things? I think this is where we miss another big point of why self-care is important in business. Is that's what keeps you going. If you're lacking any energy, if you're not feeling well, if you're hurt, if you're having any of these things that you're not taking care of, how do you show up to work when there's no one else there to get you there? Like, especially as an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss checking to see if you're showing up. You have to get there yourself. And if you're not feeling up to it, it's much harder. So if you are doing all those self-care things, if you are eating right and working out and getting massages, physical therapy, getting a massage while eating turkey, if you're doing all those wonderful things, you're going to show up better for yourself and your business.
I don't know about the massaging and eating turkey at the same time part, but yeah, most of the other stuff I'm on board with. We're not all Kenobi. Yeah. What I would say here, and I maybe the one point that I feel is most important to make for anybody who is like myself is, when you're trying to figure out how to handle burnout, and when you're getting tired and it's becoming a chore. It's no longer fun, and it's a chore, and you're really struggling. You're always going to look for, like, well, how do I fix this? How do I get better? And if you want to solve the symptom, then you implement something at that point in time, but you're not really tackling the underlying issue. You're just medicating a symptom. Self-care is all about eliminating the underlying issue, so you don't end up in that position. So if you're really serious about avoiding burnout, and you don't want to go through that, and you don't want to deal with being sick or inconsistent or the emotional valleys that you can run into, self-care is what's going to help us avoid that. And the best way to do it is just to implement the self-care routine. As with anything else, put a process and a system in place, and do it on a consistent basis, and you'll find yourself in a position where you're not going to burn out or deal with some of those extreme lows that you might otherwise deal with, especially as an entrepreneur or professional on an island, which so many of us are.
Self-care is also making those connections with some other adult human beings that you can share some conversation with and vent some of that stuff out, right? Being able to process that, whether it be with a friend, a colleague, might even be a mental health professional or a coach, people like ourselves, finding something in your world that you can share that with and get that stuff off your brain. Because we talked a lot about physical self-care today, but mental self-care is just as important, if not more so. So make sure you're taking care of your body, your brain, your whole person. All of it works together. All of it is needed to survive.
And we'd appreciate any comments to remain PG following this podcast.
Not necessarily.
We'll moderate. For anybody listening and not watching, the doc just threw a slide into our DMs on the screen, and the timing could not have been more perfect, man.
That's where we appreciate all kind of comments. So we like to have fun too with this. But
We
yes, so speaking of sliding into our DMs and all that, we would like to hear back from you on your self-care routines. What are the things that you like to do when you get stressed? What is your go-to? Do you have a daily self-care routine, a weekly self-care routine? How often do you get a massage? That's one of the things I need to add into mine a little bit more. Now I'm thinking about it. Planned for today. Let me write that on my calendar.
It's a good one, man. And for all of our listeners, our subscribers, our viewers, thank you again. A couple updates. We've got Evolved Networking popping up. This is on a regular basis at this point. So depending on when this releases, October 27th is our next. If it's after October 27th, do not worry. We'll be certainly marketing the next one, and we're really excited about that. In addition, we've got some great freebies coming your way. We have the 6 methods to make sure your business does not fail, with some real actionable items on how you can make sure it's your competition and not you. So for anybody who's anxious and dealing with some anxiety, and it's not just self-care that you need, you might find this to be a pretty good resource. But we know that's not all, because for a lot of us, we struggle with our time. So if you haven't checked it out, we've got an awesome 7-minute masterclass. That's right. Not 45 minutes of wasted time, a 7-minute masterclass, the R.I.P method to 2 extra time. This is an actionable system you can put in place tonight to start getting more out of your day and accomplishing more. So if you want to check that out, you can always find those details along with everything else in our show notes.
And that 7-minute masterclass does have a basis in self-care.
Doesn't it?
It does.
It absolutely does. Good conversation, Doc. I think I'm ready to go schedule a turkey. I mean, a massage. I mean, a turkey massage.
Maybe we should do it together.
That would be weird. You imagine massaging a turkey. That would be odd. Somebody's self-care out there. There's some weird people, man. Somebody's self-care is a turkey massage.
Yikes. Anyways, if you'd like to get in touch with us in any other way, talking about things besides massaging turkeys, you can find us at our website at jbandthedoctor.com, on all our social media at jbandthedoctor, or you could leave us a comment and send us pictures of you massaging a turkey. Or not.
Maybe not that. I'm really scared about what those photos are going to be, man. So no photos, please. Not of massaging a turkey. All right, everybody. Thanks for your time. I'm JB. I'm out.
Peace out, yo.